You are watching Psychic Witch Talk, hosted by Christine Rossi and Diana Rachel, shot at the Mystic Dream in Walnut Creek, California. Welcome to Psychic Witch Talk, and for today we have Christina Rossi.
Hello.
And Lia Nicely, and I'm Diana Rachel. We're all members of the Mystic Dream Psychic Guild. If you log on to themysticdream.com, you can book an appointment with any of us for a reading, advice, or for someone to look at you funny. So today we're talking about Magic 101, and I believe all three of us are some type of magic worker.
I define myself as an abstract pagan.
An abstract, yeah, that's right. And would you like to give a little more details on that?
Well, I'm a self-taught. I've wanted to do magic ever since I was old enough to sing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and I was always sure it was real. So I just kept working at it and trying things out, and I eventually was in a bookstore with my mom, close to the shop actually. And I picked up a little book of magic and like an actual magic book, and my mom was there and asked her if it was okay if I bought it, and she said yes, and so I've...
Oh, you're fortunate.
Yeah, my parents are awesome.
Yeah, that's unusual.
Yes, I spent my karma wisely.
Yes, I would say so. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so Christine, how did you get started?
Oh my goodness. I would say that as far as the actual magic part of my life, I probably got started in the early 90s, right around the early 90s after my divorce was final. And I was exploring everything, absolutely everything at that time. And so with that, I started doing candle magic.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. And then did the solitary practitioner for quite a long time. And then came out and doing other things with the angels. And it's kind of broadened.
Yeah, no matter how far you get, there, it always turns out that there's more, and then more, and then more. Yeah. So for me, we have a peanut gallery today. It's totally cool. It's totally cool.
This is pretty much live.
Yeah, we shoot this live in the Mystic Dream every Friday, so occasionally you get some background noise. Yeah, or April running through in a bedsheet, but you'll know what that's about later. So I got my start mostly when I ran out of denial in college, and apparently you can run out of denial. It just takes some people more time than others. And I actually got into magic when I had to pay my own way through college. My parents were tapped out from what they could help with. So I started doing money magic, which began with burning some candles and some incense and like putting down, I need this much money. And for a while, it basically just got me really good scratch off tickets. So I would go to Green Bay with my roommate in the weekend, buy like one scratch off ticket from her, and then have like $80 to get me through the next 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah, and this was the late 90s, and it was in Wisconsin, so it was doable as long as I was charming and did enough readings to never have to pay for my own beer. So, and there are certain times when everybody runs out of charm, but I did the best I could. So
you haven't run out yet.
Yeah. Well, occasionally it takes a little maintenance, but once I've been in the garage for a while. So, and for me, over time, I just became fascinated with it because it's this weird combination of, I wouldn't call it science. I think that even though Aleister Crowley, believe it or not, was the one who came up with the scientific method of question and then test and question and test, it doesn't really hold up well with actual magical practice. But I do see it as an art form and as it's almost like making emotional life manifest. When you're taking a candle or expressing a wish, that's actually taking something from your emotional self and putting it in physical form, and then inviting physical or emotional things to come to you through that avenue. And since we can't literally rip our emotions out of our body, that would be gross. This is a much more effective way to deal with it.
It's less messy.
Yes. So that's my opinion about what magic is.
I would say that I agree with that, but I would like to add to that and
Okay.
say that magic for me is a way of honing down my desires of wanting to create the life that I would like to live. And so, as I want more things or expanding my life in the directions that I would like, then I'm learning more and more magic on how to do that.
Yeah, and it is an interesting thing is there's always the question of when is enough, but the cost of the human condition is if you're alive, you want.
Yes.
That is simply how it is. That doesn't mean you have to have all the things that they need to be material things, but desire is part of the life force. So what do you think it is?
Um, I'm a little bit worried about offending you.
No.
Okie dokie. I know that what you do works for you, and that totally works. Everybody's got to find what works for their brain, what they can wrap their own brain around.
Right.
For me, I grew up in a family that involves a lot of scientists, and so when I go about magic, yes, I definitely came at it hard and strong from believing it, and then the more I learned about magic, and then I also study biology and physics and everything, and what I find is that both of them are complementary when you can wrap your brain around it, because both operate on the laws of nature.
Okay.
And so I would never want anyone to do what didn't work for them, and I would never say that like magic is magic and science is science, and sometimes there's just this little spark of something that just either unites or defies both of them.
Yeah, that wouldn't offend me. That just gives me more stuff to think about. That's awesome, actually. Okay, so that's so as you can see, and there's a running joke, you put 10 witches or whatever in a room and they will have about 35 opinions.
Yes.
And that's before someone brings up beer and it breaks into a brawl. So, this is pretty good. There's like enough of us and we have incentive not to brawl, so.
Don't want to knock the camera down.
No, but I'm in nursing, so if anyone gets hurt, I'd be happy to help put you back together again.
Here you go.
Yeah,
And Reiki.
yeah. Yeah, and I
Reiki.
just received Reiki from Lia and she's fantastic. So,
Thank you
and I'm very much a Reiki skeptic, so I'm very impressed.
very much.
So, yeah, we highly recommend her. So if you can come in for a treatment with her, she's the one to go to. And I'm
You
trying
also
to
do
think-
readings.
I do.
Yes.
I do. I do tarot, I do Lenormand Oracle, and I do have angel messenger cards that I like to work with.
How are you finding Lenormand? I just started working with that one a little bit.
Oh gosh, it's so much fun, and it's so fascinating to try to figure out, because it's like learning a completely different language, because tarot's read intuitively and Lenormand is read analytically. And so, but at the same time, like my tarot brain wants to say but this, and then the Lenormand books will say but no this,
Yeah, and I've read that. I think one of the things that's helping me is a lot of what I see in Lenormand. I saw because I was the kind of nerdy kid that would read these voluntarily. But I read a bunch of Nathaniel Hawthorne books, and not just the Scarlet Letter, like House of Seven Gables. And I read Moby Dick because I was into torturing myself. But the symbolism seems to line up with the Lenormand tarot really well. So that was just something I thought was kind of interesting. And so, again, for people that are like nerdy classicists, there you go.
Yeah.
So would you like to talk a little bit more about how you got started or how you started reading professionally?
Yeah, well, I don't remember precisely when I picked up my very first tarot deck. I think it was more than 15 years ago. And I would read at home, and I would read for myself, and then I would read at parties for my friends, because it helped me feel less awkward. Because I had a purpose. I had something to do if I was reading for people. And
I used to do that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would do that, and then I hung out at the Holistic Health Center on the San Francisco State University campus. And so I started doing like Reiki and readings there to like be able to interact with people and talk to people, and then other people would come in and want readings or want to get Reiki. And then I became sort of like, oh, you're here, can you do this? and it was a lot of fun for that. I think one of them dubbed me the Reiki chick.
You still are.
Yeah, I'm still the Reiki chick.
Yeah.
Yeah, at my college I got dubbed the witch chick.
Oh,
So yeah,
very cool.
Midwest. I mean, there weren't very many of us.
Yet. Give it time.
Harry Potter, it's doing its work.
Oh, yes. So, but then I wanted to start reading here, and I actually started with the intention of just doing Reiki, and just doing Reiki here to not compete with anybody, because I'm not a very competitive person. I like to compete with myself, but as an empath, when I compete with other people, if I win, I feel bad because they lost, and if they win, I feel bad because they mock me. So,
Oh, okay. That mocking someone for losing is kind of poor sportsmanship anyway.
Yes,
but
I agree.
that's just my opinion. Okay, so for the next part, we're talking about Magic 101. And so I wanted to start with the most basic and most common thing that people come into the shop and ask for, and that is sage. Now, most people, when they think of sage bundles and smudging, they do think of it in this bundle form. And you can see that it's slightly burnt and it's got the thread around it. And one of the reasons, there's a couple of reasons that sage is so popular, is that it's actually grows in most of the US and most of Europe naturally. It actually has really strong actual medicinal qualities. It's actually used in Eastern Europe as a way of breaking a fever, but it does it by raising your body temperature, so don't do that too often. And the other thing, because sage has that effect where it makes you sweat, is even if you're doing a sage smudge, and I've done this to myself by accident, but in American Indian practices, they will have sweat lodges, and they'll be burning all the sage, which causes you to sweat even more, along with being in a hut where, you know, everyone's sweaty and drippy and just getting every piece of their inner and outer toxicity. Now, what I was told about sage when I first started practicing, because I lived in Dakota Sioux territory, was that this was used to call in good spirits that would push out bad spirits. Now, given the antiseptic properties, I think that would work on a microbial level anyway, which, I mean, you would know about this. And also, sage is a very friendly plant ally. So I would admit, I think I overused it in my youth to the point where I actually have to use other cleansers now. But this is still one of the best ones you can use for your home, especially in the U.S.
Yes.
I would say it's actually even more important to use it in the Midwestern U.S. than it is further out in the West and East Coasts. But it's still fairly important. I know the gentlemen that own the shop like to tie them up in different colors of yarn. What I learned initially, and this was again from being in Dakota Sioux territory, is that usually it's supposed to be red yarn. And it represents something about a blood tie to Mother Earth, but it's specific to their culture and story, and I'm just not as educated in that as I should be. So, but to show you how to use this safely, which probably means I shouldn't be doing it.
Okay, let me just pull back here. Go right ahead and like that. Yeah.
So one, it's better to use one of the long ones, because when you're using a little cigarette lighter, I've burned my thumb more times than I care to admit. And so you light it like this, so it gets a little bit going, and it's not going to continue to burn. What will happen is it burns down to kind of an embery thing in a minute, and then you kind of wave it around. And so you walk through your house and saying, you know, bless this space and cleanse it, you know, bring in the good and push out the negative, or, you know, help my home be peaceful. You'll get that wonderful sagey odor. If you do too much of this, the police will show up at your door and be very disappointed it's not pot. And I've had this happen at least 4 times in my life. So including once, because occasionally when sage will occasionally take on a mind of its own. And so I have had issues with sage deciding, because you don't have to burn a bundle all the way down. You can just go ahead and put it out, and we use an abalone shawl as a nice one. It catches all the embers, and also it looks nice, and it's heat proof, so you can set it down and not worry about setting fire to anything unless you're me. And I've had some incidents. I've mentioned them in previous shows. But sage is one of those things that you do need to use. I recommend using it at the new moon and the full moon as part of a routine cleansing. Some people just wait until stuff builds up. It's up to them. But I forgot what I was going to say. Son of a...
Sage is good for clearing your home of any negativity, whether it be spirits or when you move into a new place and people that lived there before and they may not have been the happiest days when they were moving.
Yeah.
And all of that energy hangs out. And so by using it when you go to move in is an excellent idea. It helps clear everything out so you can make your home your own. So for people who move and live in apartments and things, this is fabulous stuff to do.
Yeah, it's a good practice to have, and I remember what I was going to say now.
Okay.
Is sage will sometimes take on a mind of its own, so once in a while it will refuse to stop burning.
Yes, I've had that.
Yeah, which means it sees something you don't, so you need to trust it. So your best bet is to put it in a sink or a bathtub and let it do its thing. Mm-hmm. Open the windows, and if you live in an apartment in the middle of winter, just crack them, because otherwise the neighbors get annoyed, especially when it competes with their weed, which I found out once. So just
Put them out though. I have
Yeah.
put it out.
You can-
if it's going
yeah.
really good, which it does about mid bundled size.
Yeah.
And once it gets really going good, sometimes it's difficult to put out. And I carry sand in about a thing about this big, a vehicle, a brass thing that I burn my incense in, and I'll snuff it out that way. I'll just
Yeah.
stick it in that way and leave it alone, and it will eventually put itself out that way.
there's a couple times where it's refused to for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well,
you
I
must
was-
have had some real
I was-
strong energy going on.
Well, I was living in Mankato, Minnesota, which was the site of the largest mass murder of American Indians in history. So there, I'm sure I peeled a few layers off, but there was so much. I mean, there was more. I was like in my 20s, fledgling witch. It was more than I could do. I did a lot for what I could do.
So now that we know about smudging, what about those that can't, that have allergies and things like
And
that?
asthma, and I have severe asthma, so I've had to move on from smudging. So would either of you like to
Would you
talk
let
about
her-
sprays?
Yeah.
Well, liquid smudge that we have here is a really excellent alternative for people who have trouble with smoke, if they have asthma, or even if they just have a cold. So basically, instead of using fire and risking house and home, you can just like take a little mist and squirt, and then as the mist disperses, it acts in a similar fashion to the smudge. And
Yeah, it is actually equally effective and far less flammable, which is the major advantage.
Yes.
no, and then you can do like the little musical number I always do with it.
Oh, what's the musical number?
Can I spray it?
Yes!
That's what we use.
It's a
the
tester, you're
testers.
allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay. Da 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 da.
That works well. Coolly, yeah, as misty as the Danube walls.
Also, it's great for when you are saging, if you're using the smoke of the sage, you fan that so that it gets into all the corners. And with the liquid smudge, you can literally reach over and spray, like behind the bookcase and places that are hard to reach.
Yeah.
The back of the closets and things like that. So there's advantages for the liquid smudge.
Yeah, and for those of you that are practicing in dorm rooms or in smoke-free apartments, sometimes the spray is what you have to go with.
Work, people that have those cubicles. I've seen a lot of people come in a work environment where they're surrounded with a lot of negativity and there's really not a whole lot they can do, and so they'll clear their space with either the liquid smudge or the spray that I make, which is sage spray with love, and it will end up clearing all the negativity and bring in just a nice calm feeling so that they can get their work done.
Which is probably more needed in most workplaces than people admit.
I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
It could also potentially serve as a nice alternative if you're in, say, like a hospital and you need to be conscious of oxygen use.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That's a really good idea. So, and we also have other ways.
So, which one would you like me to pick up?
Well, we can do I'll do this one. I'm going to reach in. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
No worries.
So I mentioned this, and this is the one that I make that I sell here through the store, which is sage spray with love. Say that 3 times fast.
No.
And it is very similar to what their store brand, except that I have added an extra oomph of love, so that once you've cleared all of the space, you bring in some love. And people, it's a little softer. It smells a little softer, a little less green. And so this is going here as well. So I will reach back here and I will put it back. Wait a minute, let me do this. Ta-da!
Yes,
There
and
we
you
go.
can get that at the Mystic Dream. It's on a special display at the moment near all of the angel stuff. Okay, so Leah, do you want to tell me what you were just telling me about the fire being?
Oh yeah, I love 7 day candles. I like to think of them as this fire being that's sole purpose in life is to help you with this one thing that
That's
you
so
light it
nice.
And you have to give it really specific instructions or it will try to do things on its own.
for. Yeah, they tend to have a very interesting personality.
Yes, yes, they do. So when we usually start with candle magic, one of the first things, and probably the one that I recommend the most, and I think we all do to
All
our
do.
clients, is uncrossing. And so, would either of you like to explain the tradition behind uncrossing and what it does and what it's for? And
Sure. I'll do uncrossing, and then you can do the next one, and we'll make sure that we're equal all the way around.
okay,
Sure.
Uncrossing for me, in any case, is undoing all of the negative thoughts that we all have. You drop something, and then you think, "Oh, that was stupid," that kind of thing. As well as jealousies of people being jealous of you that you're not even aware of. And any magic that may have been thrown in your direction that you're completely unaware of. So it pretty much gives you a clean slate, is the way I like to look at it.
yeah, I see it as something that actually helps clear the internal and the external. So, yeah, all the noise in your head, all the magic or other conflicting energy or conflicting purposes you might come across, but also sometimes even practical stuff. And this is the problem with any kind of preventative or protective magic, is if it works, nothing happens. So you don't know it worked. But it's a good way, especially when you're getting ready to do some complicated magical workings, it's a way of helping nothing happen so you can work more easily.
I agree. There's a lot of times it's a good way to clear the way, so to speak, so that you can be more pure in your intention, especially for love spells and things like that, or work. A lot of times we have thoughts and worries about things that have happened in the past, about, oh well, the last one, that's why I'm working new magic now. But you're bringing some of that old stuff with you. So if you do the uncrossing, then you start with a clean slate and move forward, which gives your magic a lot more power.
Yeah. Also, sometimes if you've done the uncrossing and you do the work, and we'll talk about candle reading at the end of the segment, but you're finding when you do a candle reading or you do a divination afterwards that there's still other work to do. Hi, April.
And she goes with a bunch of candles.
Part of the business of the shop. But you may have to go back and do an uncrossing as you do the working, especially if you commit to doing something progressively over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the next part we want to talk about is dressing a candle.
Okay. Why don't you do that one?
Okay.
I'll put this back up here.
So you already have a candle, basically, and yeah, sure, you could light just the candle all by itself, and that's fine, and that's awesome. And if that works for you, go for it. And if you want, you can take like a pokey stick or a screwdriver, and you just sort of like dig it into the candle.
Yeah, and I will warn you that one, I've broken several chopsticks on wax that was harder than anticipated, and different colors of wax will have different levels of softness.
Yes. Sometimes
Yes.
they go in really nice, and sometimes you're over here going, which if you heat it up, it goes in.
Oh, that
Yeah.
Yeah, if you heat it up, it'll go in.
I've also found if you do a little bit and then come back and do a little bit, because it gets a little friction going, so that
Yeah.
heats it very slowly too.
So yeah, put a hole through the candles, and then you can dress it with blessed oils, and you can use like a few herbs and sort of sprinkle them in to feed the candle, and then and when you're using like complementary energies, then it helps the candle be that much stronger, sort of like giving your fire being its vitamins.
Yeah. So for uncrossing, especially I'm something of a Western herbalist, I would recommend, especially if you're doing an uncrossing and really want things out of your way, is use goat's rue. It's also called devil's shoestring. That's one of the best uncrossing herbs out there. And if you can get your hands on it, a little bit of High John the Conqueror combined, it really just, it's kind of like a baby bulldozer. It just goes right through.
It's good to know.
So the next one I want to talk about before we get into candle reading is when we're doing is some of the other candles and purposes and how we use them. So, for example, especially if I'm doing prosperity work, I like to do an uncrossing, and then before I actually get out Crown of Success or something, I like to do road opener.
There we go.
So, would either of you like to talk about road
Why
opener?
don't you talk about the road opener?
Okay. Road opener is a really important one. So now you've uncrossed, you've gotten rid of like negative stuff that's all hanging around you. Road opener is for getting stuff out of your way. You know, like it's for roadblocks, it's for saying, it's for anything that might come up that you're not aware of. Basically getting things out of your way before you encounter them.
It's also for if you don't necessarily have access for something manifesting, it is to create a way to get there. So road openers basically, yes, it gets things cleared off roads, but it also creates roads.
Right, and we have at our store here, we've got corresponding oils that go with all of our candles, so that if you are unfamiliar and of which way to go or what combinations to use, you can use with the uncrossing just the uncrossing oil if you wanted to. And with the road opener, we have road opening oil, and we also have an herb blend that is prioritary as well.
There's actually a spray, a bath, so you
Yes.
can like do an entire ritual bath and really get into the purpose. And especially for uncrossing, it's actually a good practice to have, I think. So there's the bath, there's the spray, there's the herb blend. There's actually occasionally the gentlemen that own the shop make waters, which I don't use as much. I think it's...
Oh, I've used them.
Oh,
Have you?
Tell
Do you
us
like
about
the
the
waters?
waters.
I love them so much.
Okay.
Okay, avid believer in the waters here. Go for
Okay,
it.
tell us how you use them.
Basically, like with the waters, like I personally like will use a little bit like in my bath or something when I'm getting ready for a particular purpose. And honestly, before I used them, I was a bit skeptical about them. I thought, oh well, it's just colored water. I mean, and then I just sort of got some because I wasn't having a whim that day, and I brought it home and like I tried it, and like over the next 24 hours, like wow, this is freaking epic, you know.
What was it that you used, if I may ask?
What was cleansing? Cleansing, I think, was one of my very favorites. I've had Chaz make that for me on several occasions, and I really like
Nice.
that. Fast luck is awesome. Like seriously, and crown of success, lovely. Fireworks of love, use cautiously. It's awesome.
Have to
And-
be prepared for
Yeah.
the consequences.
Well, lately it's more like backfire works of love for me, so I'm just going to go very carefully. Okay, so that's the basics of the road opener and uncrossing candles. Before we get into the protection candle, let's talk about the basic white candle. And Christine?
Yes. Okay. So there's a lot when people are first coming in and using introduction into candle magic. They usually start with candles like this of the whole rainbow, and each color has a purpose behind it, so that you can get something that will work with you. On just like the 7-day candle, you want a color that will coordinate with what you're going for. So if I was using this one, I might use it for clarity. And then I would get an oil, like lemon would be good. You could use essential oil, or you could use an oil blend. I have my oil, which is clearing oil. And you dress your candle, and you say, well, I can't poke a hole in this one easily.
You have to like rub it just up and down, which is...
What I've been told is that if you want something for you, for yourself, and you want it to come in, then you bring it towards you coming this way. And so that you're put a little oil in your hands, and then bring it back this way, so that you're drawing to you. If it's something that you want to get rid of, then you want to bring it back up the other way and out. And so if you're doing a clearing, then you're going to want to take it out, because you want to clear everything away from you.
Yeah, and that's what I learned in Hoodoo and Conjure. I know there was a tradition I practiced with a long time ago where for some reason they always told you to start in the middle and then move out and then down. Which, honestly, I kind of like the in or out version. It makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
And it's easier to remember.
Yeah. I want to draw this to me. I want to get rid of this.
Yeah,
I need
and
this
so-
out of my life.
Yeah, there's always a basic, and there's usually color correspondences with each candle for what they're popularly associated with. I would say because neurology is weird, you may have an aversion to specific colors, in which case use the next closest color that you do not have an aversion to.
Absolutely.
So, for instance, some people really hate pink. So if you want to do love magic, maybe use red or orange.
Yeah, I
So-
don't. There's
You
no
could
problem
use
with
green
that.
too.
Yeah, green for the heart chakra,
Yes.
and actually brown for like more home-based domesticity
Very
magic.
earthy love.
Yes. Another thing is that in a pinch, and I just learned this trick recently from another conjure person, is you can actually use a candle to do cleansing on yourself. And actually, I'm just going to we're going to use the poppet here so I don't nullify the candle with myself. But you can actually run it around. It's sort of like an egg cleansing where you roll it over the body. But you can actually run it over your head and it pulls out the negative energy.
Nice.
And it's pulling something out of the doll, so something happened to the poor thing. You feel that it's heavier now. So, I'm sorry, baby. I don't know who was mean to you.
Yes, we need to love the doll.
Poor baby.
So we're moving on with candles.
Yeah, we're doing candles and incense now, which I realized we just talked about candles. Candles are usually paired with their buddy incense. And incense was supposedly originated by the Egyptians, who found that certain things burned and smelled really good when they burned and gave off a lot of smoke. And they believed that the smoke helped the deities that they worshipped hear their prayers better. Or at least it got their attention because it smelled good. So they were coming over going, "What's that?" Okay. So, and it's something that actually brings a lot of people into the shop. The gentlemen that work for the shop make their own incense a lot of the time. So they'll have a lot of homemade incense that they put out in a brazier out in front and draws in a good chunk of the neighborhood going, "Ooh, what is that?"
Yeah, they
That's
like
pretty.
that.
So first I want to backtrack a little bit. So we were talking about candles before. So, for example, we talked about clearing the road for a purpose. Now, the next most common purpose that people have is protection. And so, again, you dress it, you go ahead and you put the oils on, and usually you leave these burning for 7 days straight.
If you can.
Yeah, and there's several safety procedures that are good to have. I keep mine in my fireplace because that's the best place for a candle in a house. But it's also a good idea to put it in a bowl and have sand around it because, especially with the glass candles, but any candle, fire can take on a mind of its own. And so glass can explode, a wick can go up. If there's magical activity, it will burn oddly. And so since you've already got the candle going, sometimes you want to add a little oomph, and along with daily prayers or a chant or something, people like to add incense. And that's also a way of incense combined with prayer or with a chant or with a spoken spell is actually a fairly effective practice. Again, there are alternatives to this for people with asthma. I actually own an aromatherapy mister,
I do too.
and you can actually mix up your own essential oil mixes and basically do the same thing as you would with the incense. Or if you're really in a pinch, and I've done this before, is start a pot of water boiling on your stove or in your microwave and then just throw the raw herbs on top. And failing that, if it's available to you and safe for you, heating some vodka and throwing herbs or oils, and that will also work.
Now that I have to try. I haven't done that one.
Yeah, be very careful. It is not friendly with synthetics. So make sure you've got the real thing before you throw it on there. I have learned this the hard way. So right now, this one I have is actually a popular alternative sage right now, and there's actually several alternatives, but this is the most asked for after sage, is Palo Santo. And this is a wood. It's very rich and piniony, I guess. I'm not even sure. I think that this is something that grows in the Southwest.
It is. It is. Usually it's the bark that's burned, but they take the resin and they mix it with the incense and then roll it onto the sticks. So
Yeah, and so purifying frankincense and myrrh are also really good for protection. I like myrrh because it's actually very purifying. It's antiseptic, but it is a rare herb. And myrrh is basically a gum. Anyone who's worked with essential oils knows, because myrrh is something you swear at a lot because you have to dilute it, because no matter how much you dilute it will ruin every dropper you own. There is no
Yes.
reclaiming it. But these are really, they're popular because they were Bible mentioned herbs. They are rare, they smell wonderful, and they do have really great protective qualities. At the same time, there are very common herbs that are less popular that are just as potent. And so it's a matter of just deciding what you want. I know if you don't have an allergy and you don't have an aversion, cedar wood is common. It's something that is sustainably harvestable. And it is also it gets rid of bugs. Moths hate cedar. So putting cedar anything in your closet will slow them down significantly. But it's also good as a purifier and as a protective herb as well. And for some reason,
So is rosemary.
yeah, rosemary's
Rosemary
great.
works really well.
Yeah, I love rosemary. I've actually done rosemary sage bundles in the past too.
Very
well,
nice.
I mean, not sage, but bundled rosemary.
Bundled rosemary.
Yeah. Yeah.
That it burns nicely, and it's really good when you were talking about clearing. I've actually used it when I've had pets, and you get fleas. I've taken rosemary and sprinkled it all over the carpet for a 24-hour period, and then vacuumed and got rid of the fleas.
Ooh, that's useful.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, mostly I've just ruined chicken with it, but you have to go lightly, very lightly. So one of the things that with burning candles in glass candles, and glass is actually a 20th century invention. They actually started with the spiritual and hoodoo shops, so they started putting them in glass candles. And they found that over time is that you can actually tell how a working went by looking at how the candle burned. So this is a before, how one looks. This is actually Watchful Eye protection that was burned in the shop. And so you can kind of see, and we did a little piece in this in a previous show, but again, because it's part of the whole process.
Under divination.
Yeah, under divination we did this, but for magic also, because you want to know how things went. So if you see there's the smoke along here, which meant that there was a lot of stuff going on that had to get burned through. But at the bottom, there's not really a wax ring to speak of, just a little bit over here. And so it looks like they actually managed to get some protection in place. I mean,
yeah, when I look
see.
at it, when you say that there's a little bit of wax back here, then I would say that your problems are behind you.
yeah.
As far as reading the candle itself, and that everything is clear to go.
Yeah. So and this is one where it was a little more work.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
There was a lot of work going on there.
Yeah. So I have this thing called Midwestern understatement. There's pills for that. Okay. This one, I don't know what the demo was for. I think that this may have just been like a burn with no magical purpose, but you notice how it's mostly clear. I mean, there's still a little bit of cloudiness in the glass that comes from the paraffin. Oh yeah, this is the one that had the masquerade mask on.
Yes.
So do we remember what that was for?
No.
Okay.
I can't remember.
But there was some, glamour.
There was
So-
glamour. Yeah, there was glamour going on.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the thing that the demo was telling us about for some reason. So I think that covers candles. What else do we need to talk about here?
We want to talk about poppets and dolls.
Okay.
And also crystals.
Okay. Do we want to move that on to a new segment of the show, or
That's completely up to you.
let's do that. Oh, play with the poppet.
This is Leah playing with the poppet.
Yes, see, so which we've named Winifred. So this is the poppet Winifred. So yeah, that poor thing was the thing that actually had some negative energy in it. So poor baby.
It probably picked it up from people handling it in the store.
Yeah, well, and we've talked before about how people handle everything that goes through your hands.
Yes.
We're gonna stop there doing this. Okay. All right, girls.
This is like Barbie. Can you come out and play today?
The witchcraft version of Barbie.
Yeah, I've got a magic scroll, and I have my own little witch broom. We can go and make magic together. Yay. The sad part is that I get thrown in the fire at the end.
So,
Long explanation, but we'll explain it at another time.
yeah, witches aren't made out of wood; they're made out of wheat. But we'll talk about that later.
So anyway, poppets.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Go online to book an appointment with Christine, Diana, or other members of the Mystic Dream Psychic Guild at themysticdream.com. Devin Hunter's book, Modern Witch's Book of Power, is now available at the Mystic Dream or at your favorite metaphysical retailer.